It's Chris Ward with the CBT Nugget Series 70-414. This nugget is all about virtualized networks. Some basic planning questions that we need to know before we start deploying Hyper-V or even our system-centered virtual machine manager or some virtualized environment into our enterprise solution. We're going to have to think about how we're going to secure network traffic. Are we going to be operating in a multi-tenant virtualization environment? Are we going to use VLANs? Is your network team going to manage all the network settings and IP address assignment, or are they going to do instead VMM pools and some other things? These are all good questions that we need to think of. In this nugget, though, we're going to start off with some basic planning thoughts, questions to ask, as well as cover a few things with virtual switches. When creating your virtual environment, we need to understand nowadays that a lot of your physical network devices have virtual equivalents, or what a lot of people call virtual appliances. And so when you are putting together these virtual machines, and especially in large scale enterprises, you need to plan for it. You need to know and understand what it is you're going to put together. We're going to take a look at planning for networks, some of the terminology and the things that we have, as well as the virtual switches that you can put in place for your virtual network infrastructure. Even in a virtualized environment, you need to plan for connectivity. Now, in a physical environment, maybe you're a lot like this guy right here. I got this from Wired Magazine. They were doing like articles on bad cable management. And I'm sure the person who volunteered this picture is kind of like, yep, that's me. And by the way, for me personally, I was that way for quite a long time until I started working as a consultant with a good friend of mine, a contract guy by the name of Lee Older. The Integration Works, look it up on the web, great guy. Always want to promote Lee. Lee was a big fan of DERFT, and maybe you guys have heard this. Do it right the first time. DERFT. And he said, because I would do this and I'd plug in everything and I'd have connectivity, and then I'd try to do cable management afterwards. And he's like, Chris, don't do it that way. Start off by placing them into the trays, making sure that they're connected, use your zip ties and whatever you need to do to make sure that you're doing it right the first time instead of having to come back in and deal with all that mess. Now, I say that because you're like thinking, Chris, we're talking about virtualization. Guess what? That translates when you're using virtual networks as well. You might not have all the physical cabling and stuff like that, but when I first started in virtualization, I started creating virtual switches and creating networks, and oh, this will work. And then when it didn't work, I would have to go in and MacGyver it, where you use duct tape baling wire, and I would try to sneak this in and add